for 14 through 16, describe the differences between the graph of each function to the graph of the parent function f of x equals x squared without actually graphing. Then state the vertex of each parabola. All right, so all of us teachers might use different terminology, different books, different websites, all use different terminology. So I'm going to attempt to say all the different ways that you could say it. I'm not going to write them all down, so you need to be listening. All right, so when we look at this equation here, we notice that there is 1/2 in front of where the x squared would be. This is considered the x squared. We also have this -2 inside the square, and then we have this +7. So there's 3 things. So I'm going to have 3 different things occurring. All right, so this is the a value, just like it's been on every other problem. This is between 0 and 1, and so that tells me that my graph is getting wider. Your teacher might say, you know, the graph is wider. That's fine, okay? I'm going to say that it is vertically compressed. Again, like before, if you have your hands stretched above your head like a touchdown and you push on them, you're pressing on them, it's getting wider. Okay, so vertically compressed is what, and you've seen that on the other questions on your study guide. All right, this is that C value. This is telling us that it's translating up 7. You may say shifted up 7. You might say it moved up 7, okay? But translates up 7 is probably the most correct way to say it. All right, and then the last thing is this value. This is what's different. This is new, okay? This is the last thing that we talked about. This is what shifts it left and right. Now, remember, this value inside of here, it lies, okay? And so it appears to be a -2. Well, if we look at the equation looks like this. We've got our a, and then we have x minus, and we call this h squared, plus, and then sometimes we call it c, sometimes we call it k. I'm going to put k and c because we kind of go back and forth between them. They're the same thing. Now, when I look at this, this is opposite h, because it has a negative in front of it. And so if it has a negative in front of it, it's the opposite of h, because h is positive. So when I look inside the parentheses, my h is actually this, what's in here, I put in the opposite of h. So if this shows me that I have a -2, that means that h is +2. And that means that it goes to the right, because it's positive, 2 units. So we would say that this translates to the right 2 units. Oops. And then the vertex, since it went to the right 2 up 7, is going to be 2, 7. Okay? So this tells me the x value, remember it's the opposite, because this, what is written right here is opposite h. And then this is your c, your k, and that matches the y value of the vertex. All right, before going to number 15, I know you're all excited to hear the last interesting fact of the day, and that is that prairie dogs say hello with kisses. I'll say that again in case you think I mumble. Prairie dogs say hello with kisses. All right, number 15. There's, again, 3 different things that are occurring to, that are happening to our parabola. We've got this negative, we have the 3, and then we have this +1. So that means I'm going to have 3 differences between our 2 graphs. So let's look at the first one. This has a negative in front, and remember that a negative makes it reflect. So instead of it opening up, it's opening down. So we're going to say that it reflects over, and it's the x-axis. They might try to trick you on previous problems. You know, they might say y-axis, but that's not this negative. When this is negative, it's reflected over the x-axis. The 3 is your a value, and remember when a is bigger than 1, it's stretched. It's vertically stretched. So I'm going to say vertically stretched. Your teacher might say that it's more narrow. Think about if you're saying touchdown, okay, and you stretch up, your number's getting bigger because 3 is bigger than 1, and when you stretch, it's getting more narrow. And then you have this plus 1 on the inside. And remember, this is opposite H. So what I'm seeing here is a positive 1, but that's the opposite of what H is. So H is actually negative 1. And I'm going to go ahead and write that right here just so I don't forget. And that tells me that it moves to the left, so it translates to the left 1 unit. So we're going to say that it translates to the left 1 unit. And then we don't have a value over here for C, okay? So we've got to figure out, if there's nothing there, what number means nothing? And that would be 0, okay? And so you can pretend like there's a plus 0 here, and so that would be the y value of your vertex. All right, the last one. You'll notice that in the front of the parentheses, you have a 1, just like we have in front of this x squared. So that's not a difference. Those are exactly the same. So the width of our parabolas are going to be the same. What we notice to be different is that we have this plus 3, and then we have this minus 4. So there's actually 2 things on this one that make it different. All right, again, remember this is the opposite H. It's minus H. And so if this is when I put it in, if H had to have been negative 3, because what I'm seeing is a positive 3. And so this is the opposite of H, so H is negative 3. Now what that tells me, again, is that it translates to the left 3 units. And then this is your C value, or your K, and this tells me if it moves up or down. And since it's negative 4, it's moving down. So it translates down 4 units. And remember, that is your y value of your vertex. It's not as hard as it looks. You can always look back at other questions on your test that use this terminology. If you forget, there were questions that said vertically compressed. There's also one that said vertically, that it was a vertical shrink. That would also work here. There's questions that say, it translates up, right, up, left, down, right. So you can look at that. And I know there was a question that says something about reflection. So if you get stuck and you're not sure exactly what to write here, go back and look at some of the questions that you answered, and that might give you an idea of what exactly is supposed to go here. All right, good luck on your test tomorrow.